Welcome back to my channel. Hi everybody, how are you doing today? I'm right now, for those of you who are just tuning in to this episode now, I'm virtually in the middle of discussing the Alison Perot case, and I uploaded the first part yesterday. And so I will be uploading the next segment. You will be getting this tomorrow night. So I wanted to remind you that the episode that I did on the psychological profile of a child abuser, it doesn't encompass just cruelty. It encompasses the most horrific and horrendous of crimes against humanity, virtually leaving people as the walking dead. And I mean that in every sense of the physical, emotional, and whatever else level that you can possibly speak of. And by now, by a great deal, the Christine Jessup case has been outstandingly the most horrific case of child abuse by a madman monster that I have ever heard of. I'm sure there are others that I haven't heard of that are equally as horrific, but I made the mistake of clicking on one of those articles last night, and I was up all night. I couldn't sleep. So when I go over these cases, try to remember, for those of you who are interested in keeping up with this content, remember all the little tricks and signs of a child abuser that you can catch, because they will come into play. They will come into sharp focus. For instance, Calvin Hoover's enticing of Christine Jessup into the car. I don't think it would have taken much because she knew him pretty well. He and his wife babysat for her. So, you have to really remember that all of these characters operate on different levels. They all use different schemes and ploys to entrap children. But, it's not nice to think about it. And I know that it's been costing me some subscriptions, but I want to cover it. I want to cover it because I'm tired of people putting the lid on it by unsubscribing. I understand completely, and I'm not talking about YouTubers, but unfortunately, because of police investigations, I can't really go into some other things that I'm beginning to wonder about Heather Hoover herself, and what I discovered while I was researching the psychological profile of a child abuser. guys, so I'm not too far from one of the crime scenes. Christine, and I thought I would venture out here. I'm not actually gonna go right into the next few townships because we're in the middle of rush hour, and the speed limit is very, very high here, so I don't want to take a chance. I'll probably come back another day. But I am going to be going to pick up some food for Micha, and so I will probably venture just a little further up the road and show you if I see anything interesting, but I'll do this another day. So we're not far at all. So guys, I didn't really go much further up, and it really did creep me out because all I seemed to see beyond a certain point was bush, and I felt kind of creeped out doing that today. I just didn't want to go there. It looked creepy, and there were creepy things along the road. I didn't want to go. So I'm here to pick up some cat food, and actually I didn't even want to come to this outlet, but it's the only one that carries her food, and it's quite close to the area that I'm trying to investigate and explore. So hi guys, I didn't get much further along the road. I decided to turn back because it was nothing but bush beyond a certain point, and I knew it was a little further than that, so I decided I didn't feel like doing that today. It felt creepy to me. The whole road creeped me out, just thinking about what happened. I think I'm going to leave it for another day. And anyway, the whole situation has creeped me out. I'll take you inside with me. I wouldn't have come to this outlet. It's being so close to the outskirts of the city. But, okay, guys, something else just happened. So hold on. So, guys, what happened was I was getting ready to get out, and the same pickup truck driver that was stalking me and that I reported to the police last month was there again, and I decided to get out of there. I'm not in the mood to cope with that today, so I decided to get out of there. And so I'm going to go to the other Walmart. Probably I'll end up coming all the way back up here because they're not going to have Micha's food. So, I hate days like this. You know, it takes hours just to do one thing because of the traffic, mostly, and because of situations like that, where I have to repeatedly call the detective and relay the same information that I relayed last month, and so it really slows me down. Unfortunately, the picture that I got of him is blurred because we were both in motion, so it didn't turn out well, and I had to delete it. So anyway, guys, I'm going to the other Walmart. This is ridiculous. So guys, they don't have our food. I have to go. So guys, here I am back at home, empty-handed. I didn't accomplish anything. I figured, I'm not gonna drive around the city all night looking for cat food. So I figured I'd just come home and get an early start another day. It's just, I'm starting to start solution, and I shelved it last month, but I'm beginning it again because it's very simple and very enjoyable to me, and it leaves a lot of room for different kinds of soups and beans and whatever have you. And so I think what I'll do is, because I want to start to try to avoid animal protein for the next little bit, I did it mostly for my hair. I'm going to, first of all, show you how I'm going to make my soup. It's usually different every night. And then we'll sit down and have a little tiny discussion on Alison Perot. We're going to finish off the second part and talk mainly about her murderer, who I will speak about later on. And we can even go over some of those details that I pointed out to you regarding the psychological profile of a child abuser. And don't forget, Alison Perot was only 11 when she vanished and then was later discovered transpired in a park. And so we'll get on to that a little later on. But first, my soup. So everybody, that is how I make my starch solution soup. And there are so many other different soups that I, could try. Instead of putting beans in there tonight, I think I'll just have a little bit of tofu and some bread. Be done with that. I already have all my carbs for the day, but I will add a little piece of bread so I can, get back into this. It's either 4 potatoes and, or 2 potatoes and 2 other starches, such as bread, pasta. I believe it's 4 cups of pasta. I have to get back into this. Anyway, I still have to have a green vegetable, and so I'll have to prepare that later on. Just boil something green. And that is how this diet operates. It goes, the green vegetable and the starchy vegetable work against each other, and so it balances out pretty evenly. I was on the starch solution between October and January, and it went very well for me. I was quite pleased, but it really gave me severe dryness in every part of my body, my eyes, my mouth, my skin. That's the only problem, mainly because you are not allowed fats, no olives, no fats, no butter, no cheese, no dairy. So I was pretty dry, but I do want to try this one more time. And I've been noticing that my skin is very greasy. And so I think this would be a good time to try to get back into the starch solution. Plus, there's another vegetarian program that I do follow regularly, but I missed this. I just have a craving for starch. I don't know what it is. So I'm back with this, guys. Hi, guys. So I guess you all heard how today I was explaining how negatively the Christine Jessup case has affected me. So far, it is the worst that I've ever heard of. And I'm sure that there are many more cases like that out there. Some children survive stuff like this, others cannot. You know, some of the things that she went through, the article that I clicked on, it was accidental. I didn't realize that it would have a few brief details of what happened to her, but I didn't know, and I clicked it open, and it was just way too much for me to digest. But it's hard to imagine what she might have gone through during the last few moments of her life. I don't know how quick it was. I don't know how long and drawn out it was. I prefer not to think about it. By the time they found her remains in December, I don't know if it was hidden somewhere else, but it was skeletal. So I don't want to go there. But that is why driving around, guys, remember I was telling you about how all those weird situations are going on the road. In that particular area, especially, as soon as I get past a certain point, I start getting swarmed. And it's scary. And now that I realize how close all those shops I go to are to that area, and I can't imagine who may be living there, who may be, I don't know what the problem is, but I imagine it's quite a dangerous area. It's remote. I didn't go much further in than the place I stopped at and showed you along the road, but I had the creepiest feeling. I just didn't want to go any further. I don't know what it is. I think it's just thinking of Christine and what she went through. I don't think I would have been able to manage driving all the way out there. It's very upsetting. And also, it's very close to the beach where my parents used to take me as a very, very tiny child. So tiny, I used to go topless. I must have been barely 3 years old. I still remember. We did continue to go throughout my middle childhood, but that landscape now, even that, has been littered with all these horrific truths and facts about the Christine Jessup case, and possibly Nicole Moran as well. I'm not sure. So anyway, guys, I'm going to continue with the second part of the Alison Perot case. And the last part where we left off was that they found Alison Perot in a park, Kingsmill Park, which is by the Humber River, and below right below the Old Mill subway station, which is right downtown in my city. And so that's not a very remote area of the city, but it is another of my favorite areas. I cannot get over this. Let's start off with the police investigation after they found Allison bound and strangled. So the police announced a $50,000 reward for any information leading to the arrest. And now we have to remind ourselves that Francis Carl Roy was not caught immediately. He went years without being caught. And that would be the person who lured Allison to the stadium, the varsity stadium, to allegedly take photographs for a magazine or an interview, something or another like that. So, according to police, the perpetrator who lured Allison tracked Allison's movements weeks before the murder, possibly even before she took off to summer camp. And so all the time that she was at summer camp, most likely throughout July, this guy was waiting for her to come back. And she was only 11 years old. And so on the 14th of July, this is what I was speaking of before, an unidentified male caller phoned the house asking to speak to Allison. And so she, fortunately, was not there. So this person had called many other families with the name Perot until he found the family who admitted to having a child there called Allison. And the person who answered the phone was the babysitter. And so that's too bad. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I believe in those days there was identical, but I'm not sure because I remember I was still living at my house back then, way back then. And I remember we had call identification, so I don't know if they didn't have it or what happened. Maybe it was untraceable. I'm not sure. In any case, the babysitter gave out information that I'm sure she regrets now. And so what happened was he waited. He told them that he was going to be, he was affiliated with the youth track championships that were going to be held in New Jersey in the coming week, which would have been August the 1st. And so Allison must have been so excited about that. So anyway, he had really been studying up on her. And I do believe that Allison had been on the news. And I'm not sure if Allison, Peter Perot, her father, may have been related to James Perot, the famous silent movie director and actor who made so many movies, and unfortunately he died young. He was a drug addict. I'm not sure if they are linked or related in any way, because Allison seemed to be very famous and popular because of her excellent athletic skills. So police suspected that the murderer gathered information about Allison's training through the youth club that she belonged to. And so this guy was not really related to that, but he was following it very closely. So That's creepy. If he had been an employee, there would have been reason for him to have access to that youth club, but not this person. So, but police had begun before that. This Francis Carl Roy was identified through a DNA link, just the way Calvin Hoover was. The police began to suspect another man, and I think I mentioned this in the last part, called the Scarborough Rapist, and I'm not going to name the name, but I had a run-in with him and his friends on the road one day, and guys, the chase lasted for 45 minutes. I didn't know that I would get out of there alive, but it was them, guys. It was them. I don't know how I managed to get out of all these situations totally unharmed, just badly shaken and in need of a stiff drink. So anyway, they say that this gentleman that the police suspected was so adorable and charming. Not to me. He may have been a little cute, but not charming. Quite scary, frankly, but thankfully, this person is locked behind bars for something totally unrelated, and it was discovered that he was not related to the Alison Perot case, amazingly, because it was just the kind of thing that he was into. And I will not be going over his case at all. I don't want to go there, guys. So anyway, let me catch my breath. And so finally, as I explained before, the police finally identified and analyzed the DNA left on Alison and on her clothes was not a match with this suspected serial killer. So anyway, Francis Carl Roy, who was born in 1957, was questioned by the police. And so it is amazing that during the first few police interviews, Francis Carl Roy was called in and he was interviewed. And he used the same, what he said was that he used the same training facility as Alison's track club. Because he had a criminal record, so he was related to it. I made a mistake. So because he had a criminal record, he was one of the first people that the police called in. And so Francis Carl Roy was a First Nations man, and I really... I don't want to make it sound as though I'm excusing anything that he did, but this man came with his own set of issues, and they were inflicted by society, and I'm not going to go much further than that. He was from Western Canada, and he was a very, very avid runner, just like Alison. So I'm not sure, because many athletes tend to be very, not only competitive, which is healthy, obsessed and jealous. I'm not sure what this was. Certainly, Francis Carl Roy did not do what he did to Alison out of, admiration or a keen interest in track and field. He did it out of some sort of, like Calvin Hoover, some sort of unhealed wound that went back so far he couldn't control it. And this is what I mean, everybody. Human trafficking is only scratching the surface. Certainly, Alison was trafficked to the varsity stadium in the classical sense. She was lured there under false pretenses, and she wasn't kidnapped. but until she got there. But still, it was a human trafficking situation. And so even though she never left the country, she was trafficked. And so he also was very interested in photography. How very creepy for this poor girl. She was just a little girl, guys. And even though she may have looked maybe 12 or 13 at most in the photographs, she was just a little girl. And so it's unbelievable that a person with a criminal record going back to what, 1975, 1976, he was a thief. He had committed fraud. He had assaulted women. He had broken and entered private property. He had attacked women. So these women were not women. They were all teens and preteens. So I think there were around three or four of them. So he was right in the same class as this other suspected serial killer. So who then went on to commit his most horrific crimes after this. So anyway, guys, let's get on with the story. It's not very nice. Well, it just so happens that Francis Carl Roy, and I'm not really precisely clear on this because the wording of the articles were not that precise, but that day, it just so happened he was out on parole. And so he had only served 2.5 years of a consecutive 11-year sentence for attacks on a 14-year-old child and a 19-year-old teenager. So after that, he moved to Vancouver. After getting out, I think it's clear that he did spend 2.5 years and then got out on parole. So I don't think it was just that day. He had been out on parole. And so, oh my goodness, what a situation. He actually moved to Vancouver, get this, guys, in 1986, where nobody knew him. And he obtained a city job, guess how and guess what, as a youth counselor, claiming a degree in psychology. Oh boy. Psychology of what? And so he claimed that he had actually been to the University of Toronto, yes, at the Varsity Stadium to attack a girl. So he got the job without a background check, dummies. And so he left in 1991 after a bar fight, actually, and returned to the city where Allison lived, which is my home city. And so I don't know how these things happen. They're so dangerous. How do these things get out of control so easily? So now, remember what I said the other night about the psychological profile of a child abuser. And by this, I mean a child murderer. So when the police called him in, I guess the first time, Roy said that he had gone running at the Varsity Stadium and met a friend at a bar, and at the same time that Allison happened to be there. Wow. And so at the time of Allison's disappearance, actually, because she disappeared after she got there. And so, moreover, Allison's body was found 2 days later on July the 27th. And so Roy appeared at the police station to confess to an assaulting guys. How did he? Okay, get this. He actually went into the police station on July the 27th to confess to assaulting a 20-year-old woman in his apartment 2 days earlier on the 25th to give himself an alibi. Now, it doesn't make sense because I believe that he's contradicting his own story. So anyway, I don't know exactly when the police called him in. It would have been probably after the 27th. I'm not sure. So this is one thing that the article is not clear on. So, okay, so he also attacked a 20-year-old. Wow, he was busy that week. And so in October, he actually pled guilty to this particular assault and was fined $200. And I think he did that so that he would not get caught. He was really trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes and say, if I confess to a lesser charge of another person, I'll be okay. It'll go away and I'll be okay. That's kind of stupid, really, Anyway, but knowing some police stations, it probably might have worked. I don't know, but not in this case. So Francis Carl Roy ended up being fined $200. Holy crap. And plus 5 weeks in jail. Okay. So in 1989, this is 3 years after the, that was in 1986. In 1989, 3 years after the murder of Allison, and don't forget, guys, nobody knows what happened. As of 1991, he was still running around loose. Let's continue with the story. So in 1989, suspicion again fell on Roy. I wonder why. When a man arrested in Vancouver went to the police station and informed the police that they should consider him a suspect. Well, yeah, because he was. So the gentleman that was arrested told them that Roy was guilty of murders of women who worked in the sex industry, trade, whatever. And so, which had occurred earlier in 1989. And so Roy was never charged with those crimes. But the two Vancouver officers did not forget the tip. And so in 1996, 10 years later, in 1996, they gave that information to the Violent Crimes Department, and they began to start to review all these cold cases in 1996, I should say. So what happened was they read over the initial police interview and reports from Roy and Roy's police officer. And so they were struck by the inconsistencies and deceptions in the suspect's stories, which I don't have in front of me. So, but I totally believe that. And so the officers went back to Roy's DNA from cigarette butts and coffee cups and whatever have you. God knows how they got them. And so they finally made a positive match with the DNA found on Allison's body 10 years previous to that. So Roy was arrested 10 years after the murder on July the 31st, 1996, over a decade after her demise. So, everybody, what happened was that in 1998, when the trial was going on, that judge that oversaw the trial did not permit to make certain evidence, such as the attacks on those 3 teenagers and the woman, known to the jury, because it would have prevented him from getting a fair trial. And that is the law. And so, unfortunately, they didn't get a chance to know what he was really like, and until all these years later. So in 1998, the Supreme Court of Canada decided that it would really prejudice a jury against the trial. They wouldn't be able to make a fair ruling. They wouldn't be able to decide knowing that, because they would no longer have been able to remain objective. That's very hard to do. And so anyway, that evidence was about the teens. And so one victim had been tricked, just like Allison, abducted and bound, just like Allison. So I believe that Allison was actually attacked at the park, and of course not at the stadium, but she would have been so terrified. I don't know if he actually abducted her there or lured her to the park, and then, you know what I mean? These details are not known to me. Maybe there are other details of it somewhere in a book or online somewhere, but this is what I have in front of me right now. So anyway, witnesses had testified that they did see Allison with a white man on the morning of her disappearance. So that's unusual. That's unusual. The defense asserted that Roy was not intelligent enough to commit the crime. Since when do you have to be intelligent to kill? I don't think it was that intelligent. As a matter of fact, I think it was pretty, besides being shameful, pretty stupid. And I'm sure that he regrets it now. I think probably Francis Carl Roy would have had the nicest personality. He probably did have the nicest personality, but I don't think that life was fair to him. I don't think that he was dealt a fair, I think he was dealt a pretty raw deal throughout probably his childhood and his early teens. He had to have been abused, guys. A man doesn't just suddenly come out with these ideas if he's never been abused and he had a wonderful life. Guys, I don't buy that. I'm sure that Francis Carl Roy, as young as he was when he began to commit crimes, was a very troubled child. And so this is what I'm saying. If we can't give these children enough attention when they really need it, this is what probably is going to happen. It's just going to fester and become a volcanic eruption one day and turn into something that people cannot any longer control. So guys, I think I'm going to leave this. I'm going to continue with a third part. It's surprising, but I may latch it on to my next case or do a completely separate episode. But I think we're going to stop for here because it's going to be too long and it's icky. What's coming next is icky. And I have to figure out a way to say it nicely. You know what I mean? And there isn't. So anyway, guys, I hope that you've enjoyed my discussion, coming along with me today on my pointless shopping spree, which never actually materialized, and enjoyed watching me make my soup. So let's go have a quick look. And before I forget, thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye for now.